Imagine the roar of a vintage engine, the smell of aged leather, and the unmistakable charm of a bike older than some countries. Yes, you heard that right. Today we're diving into the legendary motorcycle collection of Jay Leno, the Sultan of stand-up, garage guru, and all-around motorhead extraordinaire. You might know Jay Leno as the former late-night king, but his true throne? It's in his garage. With a net worth of $450 million, Jay's collection is as jaw-dropping as it is diverse. He owns over 160 motorcycles, ranging from century-old relics to futuristic beasts. It's like stepping into a museum where every piece has a story. And today, we'll tell you some of the best. We're saving the best for last, so stick around to uncover the incredible story behind his 106-year-old bike. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Let's talk about a machine that's not just vintage, but practically oozing history. At number 1, the 1930 Indian Chief. This isn't your average collector's piece. When Jay Leno got his hands on it, the bike was barely holding itself together. A cracked cylinder, a busted crankcase, and far from roadworthy. But this beauty was brought back to life thanks to modern restoration techniques like the innovative lock and stitch method. One of its unique features is the 1200cc V-twin engine that delivers a raw and unapologetic ride. Then there's the hand-controlled ignition and the infamous suicide shifter, a gear-changing mechanism that requires some serious guts to master. Jay himself said, "If you ever get the chance to ride a bike with a suicide clutch, don't. You'll probably kill yourself." Yet he's kept this motorcycle relic in perfect running condition, proof of both his expertise and the bike's resilience. Before we go any further into this 1930 masterpiece, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, because you're in for a surprise when we hit the 106-year-old bike Jay has tucked away somewhere. And trust us, you don't want to miss more jaw-dropping stories of iconic rides and legendary machines. Now back to business. Here's where the 1930 Indian Chief gets even cooler. Leno didn't go for the showroom polished look. The Chief wears its history proudly, scars and all. This bike has a hard wooden seat, a manual gear shift lever, and a cargo rack perched above the rear fender. It's the kind of machine that feels like it's got a story for every dent and scratch. In an episode of his show, Jay broke down some of the repairs he made. He pointed out the damaged parts he'd replaced and explained the bike's unique controls, like the left-hand ignition timing adjuster and the oil injection plunger mounted on the gas tank. And what about modern upgrades? Just one. A single rear-view mirror on the left handlebar. That's it. It's a lot of fun to ride, Jay says with a grin, but it's nothing like a modern bike. It'll definitely keep you on your toes.
That being said, it's a lot of fun to ride. It's a really unusual vintage machine.
Next on the list, at number 2, we've got something so unique, you'll think it's straight out of a science fiction novel. The 1922 Mola. This isn't just a bike, it's an engineering marvel. Imagine an engine, yes, an engine, built directly into the front wheel. That's right, no belts, no chains, no transmission. Talk about stripping it down to the essentials, and the quirks don't stop there. How do you start this bad boy? By spinning the front wheel. Forget about your electric starts or even a Kickstarter. This is vintage ingenuity at its finest. But don't expect the luxury of a front brake. That's not part of the package. Riding the Mola is an exercise in calculated chaos, but isn't that half the fun? Jay calls this $100,000 masterpiece a mechanical marvel, and he's spot on. It's as if someone took the steampunk aesthetic and made it functional. The Mola isn't just a head turner, it's a conversation starter. Every time it rolls out of the garage, you can almost hear the question, wait, is the engine really in the wheel? Yes it is, and it works like a charm. Number 3, for the Egyly Vincent Cafe Racer. If speed and style had a love child, this would be it. Unlike the rough and tumble vibe of the Indian Chief or the eccentricity of the Mola, the Egyly Vincent is a perfect blend of vintage charm and modern performance. This isn't just any Vincent. Swiss racer Fritz Egyly gave it a revamp, and later, Patrick Godet modernized it to bring it into the 21st century. The result? A bike powered by a monstrous 1330cc V-twin engine, complete with an electric start and modern suspension. It's as comfortable as it is fast, a rarity for bikes with this much horsepower. And the brakes? Oh, they're something special too. The Egyly Vincent features drum brakes with self-energizing technology. Jay, ever the comedian, jokes, "A cop could clock my speed as I zoomed past at 90 miles an hour." But don't let the humor fool you. This bike is a serious piece of machinery. At number 4, the 1996 Munch Mammoth could give a grizzly bear a run for its money. Ever heard of a motorcycle that's practically part tank? This beast isn't just any bike. It's powered by a 996cc NSU car engine. That's right, a car engine. And it's not just for show. This thing pumps out 55 horsepower. At 650 pounds, it's more of a workout than a Sunday cruiser. But let's be real. If you're throwing your leg over something called the Mammoth, you're not looking for a casual ride. At $161,000, this bike is an investment in adrenaline and pure intimidation. Would you expect anything less from something with a name that screams dominance? Number 5. Let's shift gears into something equally iconic, but with a touch more sophistication. The Vincent Black Shadow. This bike isn't just rare, it is legendary. Among Jay Leno's prized pieces is the Black Prince, which was essentially the Ferrari of its day. And boy, does it live up to the hype. With its enclosed design and luxurious features, this bike was built for the ultimate blend of speed and comfort. Imagine roaring down the road on something that looks like it's dressed in a tuxedo, because that's the vibe the Black Prince gives off. Oh, and the fact that it's still in pristine condition? That's classic Jay. This bike is a masterclass in design and performance, a true collector's dream. And then there's number 6, the 1929 Scott Flying Squirrel. Yup, you heard that right, Flying Squirrel. How could you not be intrigued by a bike with a name like that? This machine hails from the roaring 20s and still manages to turn heads nearly a century later. Powered by a water-cooled 2-stroke engine, it features an innovative pump-free cooling system that was light years ahead of its time. It's a rare replica, modeled after the one that snagged 3rd place at the Isle of Man TT, a feat not to be taken lightly. Jay's love for this bike is clear every time he takes it out for a spin. Sure, it doesn't have modern perks like brake lights, but who needs them when you're riding a piece of history? It's not about convenience, it's about the raw, unfiltered joy of riding something so unique. This bike isn't just transportation, it's an experience, one that brings you right back to an era when motorcycles were built with ingenuity and a whole lot of heart. Number 7. The 1937 Crocker Big Tank. Let's dive into a story that'll take you back to the golden age of motorcycling, a time when bikes were built with grit, innovation, and a bit of daring. Picture a garage in Los Angeles where Al Crocker, the mastermind behind one of the most iconic motorcycles ever made, was crafting the future. And what came out of that vision? The 1937 Crocker Big Tank. A bike so rare and legendary, it's practically dripping with Americana. Why is this bike such a big deal? Well, for starters, only 60 were ever made. Owning one of these bikes is like holding a piece of motorcycling's holy grail. And it's not just about rarity, it's about what this bike represents. Back in the day, this 1000cc V-twin engine was an absolute beast. It's no exaggeration to say it left Harley-Davidson and Indian eating its dust. Crocker didn't just make bikes, he made machines that dared to be faster, bolder, and better. And today, the value of this marvel has skyrocketed to an eye-watering $1.5 million. Can you believe that? Now let's talk about Jay Leno's Crocker Big Tank. It's not just a collector's item, it's a living, breathing masterpiece. Leno's bike has been meticulously maintained, ensuring it's as operational as it was back in 1937. Every inch of this machine tells a story. Al Crocker didn't believe in mass production, he believed in craftsmanship. Each bike was built to order and tailored to the customer's specs. Nearly every single part of the Big Tank was made in-house, making it as bespoke as it gets. Imagine firing up this piece of history and hearing that engine roar. You're not just riding a bike, you're riding a legend. What makes the Big Tank even more fascinating is its enduring mystique. Unlike its competitors, Crocker's creations weren't about following trends. These bikes were about breaking the mold. They were fast, yes, but they were also innovative, challenging the very idea of what a motorcycle could be. And while Harley and Indian might have dominated in sheer numbers, Crocker's legacy endures in a way that's unmatched. Owning a Crocker is like holding a golden ticket to the past, a time when motorcycles weren't just machines, but statements of rebellion and artistry. Now let's fast forward a few decades to another gem in Jay Leno's incredible collection. Number 8, the 1974 Norton John Player Special. This one's got a story of its own, and boy is it a good one. Picture young Jay Leno, 3 years before he'd make his first stand-up appearance on The Tonight Show. Back then, he wasn't the car and bike mogul we know today. He was just a guy stretching every dollar he had to buy his dream bike. And that bike? The Norton John Player Special. When Leno bought this beauty brand new for $3,000, it was a big deal. "I was kinda scraping the money together to buy it," he'd later admit. "I thought it was way too expensive at the time, but it's been worth it." Can you imagine? A young comedian putting everything he had into this sleek British motorcycle? And here's what's amazing. Decades later, the same bike is still turning heads. The Norton John Player Special is a work of art. Its design is as striking as it is functional. With its broad, curved fairing and dual headlights, the bike looks like it's ready to race, even when it's standing still. The seat curves upward to provide a short backrest, giving it a sleek, aerodynamic look. And under all that style is some serious substance. The 822cc engine generates 60 horsepower at 6,200 RPM. Back in the 70s, this bike was a speed demon, and it still holds its own today. And here's where things get really interesting. Leno's Norton has a quirk that's bound to make you do a double take. The rear brake pedal is on the left, and the gear shift lever is on the right. Why? Because this bike was manufactured before September 1974, when a new law mandated that US market motorcycles had to switch these controls. It's a small detail, but it's one that gives this bike an extra layer of character. Riding it is like stepping back in time to an era when motorcycles weren't just machines, they were experiences. The John Player Special is proof of Norton's legacy of innovation and style. Named after the cigarette company that sponsored Norton's racing team, this bike was an appreciation of the glamour and grit of motorsport. And while Norton may not have had the mass market success of some other brands, it's bikes like this that keep its legacy alive. Every time Leno fires up this machine, he's not just riding a bike, he's riding a piece of British racing history. Number 9. Bruff Superior Collection. Imagine pulling into a garage filled with 26 of the most legendary motorcycles ever crafted. Jay Leno's Bruff Superior Collection is nothing short of breathtaking. Known as the Rolls-Royce of motorcycles, these Nottingham-built marvels have captivated enthusiasts for generations. Jay Leno's Bruff Superior Collection includes a number of motorcycles from the British bike manufacturer, including the SS100, Model 1150, and 90 bore. Leno's collection is the world's largest Bruff Superior collection. The Bruff Superior isn't just a motorcycle, it's a statement. Built with meticulous attention to detail, these bikes epitomized luxury and performance in their heyday, and remain iconic today. Leno notes, that's how bikes have changed the most, not with speed, because this Bruff is still 100 miles per hour fast, and in the 30s that must have been really fast, but in brakes, tires, handling, and so on, that's where the big changes have come. Walking through Leno's dedicated Bruff Superior room is like stepping back in time. Each bike tells a story. The legendary SS100, for example, came with a factory guarantee to hit 100 miles per hour. Imagine the audacity. That swagger made these bikes iconic. But Leno doesn't just collect them, he rides them, reveling in their blend of art and engineering. "Right now, I'm in my motorcycle phase," Leno says, though his decades-long passion for motorcycles suggests otherwise. There's something about the Bruff Superior that keeps him coming back. Maybe it's the craftsmanship, the history, or the joy of riding a machine that's both a work of art and a mode of transportation. Whatever the reason, it's clear these bikes hold a special place in his heart. Take the one he rides daily. While most would treat a Bruff Superior as a museum piece, Leno treats his as a trusty companion. Sure, it's been upgraded with modern tires, but it's still the same glorious machine it was nearly a century ago. That's the magic of the Bruff Superior. Timeless appeal and enduring performance. Number 10. The 1975 Suzuki RE5. Imagine the mid-70s, bell-bottoms, disco, and a time when motorcycle companies were pushing the boundaries of design and engineering. The Suzuki RE5, a typical cafe racer at first glance, but is anything but ordinary, was introduced during this period. The star of the show? Its 497cc Wankel rotary engine. Now, if you're scratching your head at the term Wankel rotary engine, you're not alone. Back in the day, plenty of folks had the same reaction. Jay Leno's enthusiasm for this bike is infectious. In one of his episodes, he explained how Honda initially had to break through stereotypes about Japanese bikes being poorly made. When Suzuki introduced the RE5, it had to overcome a different hurdle, convincing riders that the rotary engine wasn't just some wild experiment. Leno said, "When this came out, people just thought, what? And you can see why. This wasn't your standard Harley with loads of torque, nor was it a rip-roaring dirt bike. Instead, the RE5 offered a smooth, refined ride that's as addictive as it is unique. The engine produced 62 horsepower, a respectable figure for its time, and its smoothness was unparalleled. Picture yourself on one of these machines, cruising down the road with a steady hum instead of a traditional growl. Smooth, right?" Leno himself said it wasn't a torque monster like a Harley. It was just an incredibly smooth, wonderful riding motorcycle that handled pretty well. It's not exactly a ringing endorsement for speed demons, but for those who appreciate a bike that glides, it's a dream. Of course, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the RE5. The Wankel engine was seen as weird by American riders, who weren't quite sure what to make of it. And while the bike's design is striking, some might call it a bit, well, eccentric. But hey, isn't that part of the charm? Leno's advice: don't knock it till you've tried it. Try not to form an opinion until you ride one, he said. It's very addictive. It's so smooth. When you think about it, the RE5 was ahead of its time, pushing boundaries in an era when motorcycles were more about raw power than refined performance. Today, it's a collector's dream, a piece of history that's as fascinating as it is fun to ride. Finally, let's talk about number 11, the star of the show, the 1918 Pope, a 106-year-old bike. This century-old masterpiece is a living, breathing relic. Every scratch, every dent tells a story of resilience and adventure. Now, let's rewind the clock even further to a time when motorcycles were just starting to capture imaginations. The Pope is like stepping into a time machine. It's a bike that doesn't just show its age, it celebrates it. For starters, the controls are downright peculiar by modern standards. There's a left side pedal that disengages the clutch halfway and activates the brake when pressed all the way down. Talk about multitasking. Then there's the rubber grips on the handlebars. These aren't your standard grips. They extend well past the end of the metal and dangle loosely for a few inches. Weird, right? But there's a method to the madness. Leno explained in an episode of My Classic Car with Dennis Gage that these floppy grips made riding on the bumpy, unpaved roads of the time more comfortable. Riders could lean back and hold the ends, avoiding the jarring vibrations of the metal handlebars. The engineering of the Pope is equally fascinating. It features a cable-free twist grip throttle mechanism that's completely hidden inside the handlebars. It's one of those details that makes you pause and think, wow, they were really ahead of their time. And that's not all. This bike boasts a 3-speed transmission, front and rear suspension, and both hand and foot clutches. Back in 1918, that was cutting-edge stuff. Leno's excitement is palpable when he walks Gage through the bike's features. This is a very, very expensive motorcycle, he said, and very quick. You can almost hear the pride in his voice. And then there's the starting process. It's practically a ritual. First, you manually oil the valves. Then, you prime the fuel system. Only after all that does the Pope roar to life. On the first kick, no less. Watching Leno demonstrate this is like watching a master at work. Someone who truly appreciates the intricacies of a bygone era. It's easy to romanticize bikes like the Pope. They're more than just machines. They're pieces of history, snapshots of a time when motorcycles were the height of innovation. And let's not forget the sheer joy of riding one. Sure, it's not as fast or as smooth as today's bikes, but that's not the point. The Pope is about the experience, the connection to a simpler time when every ride was an adventure. So there you have it, folks. An exclusive look into the motorcycle collection of a man who doesn't just own bikes, but cherishes their stories. Whether it's the quirky Mola, the powerhouse Munch Mammoth, or the legendary Crocker Big Tank, each bike in Jay's garage to engineering brilliance and a passion for the open road. Now here's a question for you. If you could take one of these beauties for a spin, which one would it be? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode.